Horror at the Asylum. My friends and I loved exploring abandoned places. There was an abandoned psychiatric clinic near our city, surrounded by legends of barbaric experiments performed on patients. We decided to sneak in to investigate the hidden horrors behind those walls. We climbed the rusty gate on a moonless night and walked through the lawn overgrown with weeds. The clinic had broken windows through which the wind whistled. An ominous aura seemed to emanate from the dilapidated building. Even apprehensive, our thirst for adrenaline was greater. We found a broken side door and entered, lighting lanterns. We were in an extensive hallway with cracked floors and peeling walls. Broken doors led to dusty rooms, with overturned beds and rusty instruments on the floor. The air was heavy and musty. We walked tensely down the darkened corridor, until we reached a huge metal door with a small barred window. Inside, we could see a dark room full of overturned chairs and tables. We entered cautiously, illuminating every obscure corner. Then we heard a creak, and one of the metal cabinets slowly opened by itself. Inside was a crouched pale figure, wearing a torn blood-stained hospital uniform. Their eyes were wide open and lifeless. We screamed in terror and rushed out into the hallway. But looking back, we saw the creature twist its head back at an unnatural angle, unleashing a piercing shriek as it ran toward us in supernatural motions. We ran desperately until finding a room with double doors, locking ourselves inside. We could hear scratching and shrieking coming from outside, while we looked for another way out. That's when someone shouted, pointing to the ceiling. Hanging by ropes were dozens of bodies in an advanced state of decomposition, swaying over our heads. Many still wore patient gowns. Covering our noses due to the foul stench, we ran to the back of the room, where there was a partially open door. It led to a narrow staircase that descended into what appeared to be a clandestine morgue, with tables bearing mutilated bodies under blood-soaked sheets. Suddenly, the lights came on, temporarily blinding us. When our vision adjusted, we saw a man wearing a surgical mask, holding a blood-dripping chainsaw. "You're next in line," he said, starting up the saw which sparked. We screamed in panic and ran to the stairs, hearing the man say, "You can't escape. This place will be your tomb." We rushed out the stairs, but my friend Jake, who was last in line, tripped and fell flat on his face. Looking back, I saw the man grab him by the feet, dragging him back to the basement, while Jake screamed desperately. I hesitated for a moment, but fear was greater and I kept running with the others. Jake's screams echoed through the corridors, now mixed with the sound of the chainsaw. Then they suddenly ceased, giving way to frightening silence. We reached the exit, but when we realized it, two girls from the group, Julia and Sharon, had disappeared. They probably got lost amidst the chaos, or were also caught by the psychopath. We couldn't abandon them, so we went back to look for them. I then heard muffled crying coming from a dark room. We entered and found Julia huddled in a corner, covered in blood, babbling in shock. She said Sharon had been killed by the surgeon-masked man in front of her, sawed in half before her eyes. We quickly took Julia outside. Dawn was approaching, and we needed to get out of there as soon as possible. But passing by the stairs leading to the basement, we heard the roar of the chainsaw followed by an excruciating shriek. It was the psychopath torturing another helpless victim. Ethan, the feistiest of the group, was furious and wanted revenge. He said he would kill the bastard and ran down before we could stop him. We yelled for him to come back, but to no avail, he disappeared into the darkness. Soon after, we heard his screams of pain, begging for mercy amid the sound of the chainsaw, until only silence remained. We knew Ethan was also dead. We needed to escape from there immediately. We ran toward the exit without looking back. But in the hallway, Julia slipped in a puddle of blood and fell hard on the floor. When I turned around, the psychopath was already on top of her, pinning her to the ground with his body weight and the chainsaw in hand. Julia screamed hysterically as the chainsaw cut her helpless body. Her screams were muffled by a gush of blood, when her chest was shredded, exposing her internal organs. The psychopath laughed like a lunatic, chopping her body into pieces. In shock, I kept running like a madman until I reached the gate and managed to escape from there, still hearing the psychopath's deranged laugh at my back. I cried a lot and shook the whole way home, where I locked myself in my room, traumatized. That night, I swore to never tell what happened, so I wouldn't end up committed. I moved away after that and never talked about what happened that tragic night or returned to that cursed place.